What does it mean to be happy? I've asked myself that question more times than I can count. Not because I expect to find a perfect answer, but because every answer I've heard seems to slip through my fingers. As children, happiness seems simple. It's running barefoot after the rain. It's laughing so hard your stomach hurts. It's lying on the grass, watching clouds drift across the sky, convinced they are shaped like dragons and ships. No one teaches us how to be happy then. It simply happens. But somewhere along the way, happiness becomes something we have to earn. We begin believing that happiness is waiting for us somewhere in the future. If I get into that university, if I get that promotion, if I finally have enough money, if I meet the right person, if I build the life I've imagined, then I'll be happy. Our entire lives slowly become sentences that begin with if. We postpone joy, convincing ourselves that the next achievement will finally be enough. And sometimes it is. For a moment, a father holds his newborn child for the first time. A student walks across the stage to receive a degree they spent years working toward. An athlete hears the roar of thousands after winning the championship they dreamed about as a child. Someone buys the first house they ever truly own. For a brief moment, nothing else matters. The world feels quiet. Everything feels complete. Then something strange happens. The feeling begins to fade. Not because those moments weren't real, they were. Not because they weren't beautiful, they were. But because feelings, by their very nature, refuse to stay. The degree becomes another certificate hanging on the wall. The new car slowly becomes just a way to get to work. The dream job turns into another Monday morning. Life continues. And almost without noticing, we begin searching for the next thing. Another goal. Another milestone. Another promise that happiness is waiting just beyond the horizon. It makes me wonder. Have we been chasing happiness? Or have we simply been chasing moments? Maybe happiness is like standing beside a river. The water touches your feet for only a second before it moves on. You cannot hold it. You cannot ask it to stay. You can only experience it while it's there. Perhaps happiness is the same. Maybe that's why it feels impossible to describe. Some people say happiness feels like standing on top of a mountain after hours of climbing. Others find it in quiet mornings before the world wakes up. For some, it's hearing their mother's laughter. For others, it's sitting alone with a cup of coffee while rain taps gently against the window. For me, sometimes happiness feels like the wind. A cool breeze arriving unexpectedly on an unbearably hot afternoon. You notice it. It wraps itself around you for a moment. Then it's gone. The strange thing is that we don't become angry at the wind for leaving. We understand that's what wind does. So why do we expect happiness to stay forever? Perhaps because we confuse happiness with permanence. We think that if something is truly happiness, it should never leave us. But no feeling works that way. Excitement fades. Anger fades, fear fades, even grief changes with time. Why should happiness be any different? And if happiness is only a feeling, then what do people mean when they say they have lived a happy life? How can an entire life be happy if happiness itself comes and goes? That question has stayed with me for a long time, because a happy moment and a happy life cannot be exactly the same thing. Maybe we've been using one word to describe two very different experiences. Or maybe we've misunderstood happiness altogether. If that's true, then we've spent our entire lives chasing something we never stopped to define. Is happiness a feeling or a life? If happiness disappears, then perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question isn't, how do I become happy? Maybe it's, what exactly is happiness? The strange thing about words is that we often use them long before we understand them. Take happiness. A child says they're happy because they got ice cream. A teenager says they'll be happy when they finally leave home. An adult says they'll be happy when they retire. Three people, three completely different lives, the same word. So perhaps happiness doesn't mean one thing at all. Centuries ago, philosophers wrestled with this same question. Aristotle argued that happiness wasn't simply an emotion. He used the word eudaimonia, often translated as human flourishing or living well. To him, happiness wasn't the excitement of winning a race. It was becoming the kind of person who lives wisely, acts with virtue, and fulfills their potential over an entire lifetime. It's an attractive idea. But I find myself hesitating. Can anyone truly exist in a constant state of happiness? I don't think so. No one wakes up every morning excited to face the day. Some mornings we feel anxious. Some mornings we feel empty. Some mornings we don't feel much at all. Our emotions move like weather. Some days are clear. Others are storms. Expecting permanent happiness seems as impossible as expecting permanent sunshine. Perhaps the problem isn't that happiness leaves us. Perhaps the problem is that we expect it not to. Imagine someone standing in the rain, furious because the sky refuses to stay blue. It sounds ridiculous. Yet many of us do exactly that with our emotions. We treat sadness as failure. We treat loneliness as proof that something is wrong with us. We treat ordinary, difficult days as evidence that we're living incorrectly. But maybe sadness isn't a mistake. Maybe it's part of being alive. You cannot appreciate silence if the world has never been loud. You cannot understand rest if you've never been exhausted. And perhaps you cannot fully recognize happiness if you've never known its absence. That thought used to bother me. It almost felt unfair. Why should something as beautiful as happiness depend on something as painful as suffering? But the longer I think about it, the less certain I become. Imagine listening to a piece of music with no pauses. Every note played at the same volume, no quiet moments, no tension, no release. Would it still move you? Probably not. The silence between the notes is part of the music. Perhaps sadness plays a similar role in life. Not because suffering is good, it isn't. No one would choose hunger, no one would choose war, no one would choose grief. But the existence of those experiences changes the way we understand joy. It gives joy its shape. Which leads me to another question. If happiness can exist after suffering, can it exist during suffering? How could someone be happy while they're hungry? How could someone be happy during a war? How could a prisoner be happy behind bars? And yet I have seen children who wake before the sun rises. Not to get ready for school, not to play, but to work. Surely there is no happiness there. But it does exist. It exists in wars, it exists in hunger. So surely happiness isn't exclusive of suffering. If happiness isn't excluded by suffering, neither is it guaranteed by comfort. Then it isn't conditional. Or is it? Imagine two people. One spends every day wondering whether there will be enough food on the table. The other has never known that worry. It would be dishonest to pretend those lives are equally difficult. Safety matters, opportunity matters, freedom matters. When your basic needs are met, life offers more room to breathe, more room to dream, more room to create. Surely that must make happiness easier to find. And yet we've all known people who seem to have everything. Success, money, recognition, comfort, yet they still spoke of emptiness. If comfort cannot guarantee happiness, and suffering cannot completely erase it, then perhaps happiness isn't simply a reward for the right circumstances. Perhaps circumstances shape the opportunities for happiness, but they do not decide whether happiness will arrive. What does it mean to be happy? It's the same question we ask at first after everything we've explored. I'm not sure I know the answer. But perhaps that's the point. Words are simply not enough to explain it. Yet we are in a constant loop, our minds trying to define it for us at every interval. So many times, they tell us that happiness is a destination, a place each and every one of us can get to. I thought I would finally get there and have the chance to be happy. to live happily. But I guess not all our expectations are met. The goals we chase become memories. The dreams we finally reach slowly become ordinary. The extraordinary becomes familiar. And the happiness we expected to last forever quietly slips away. I thought that if I finally got out of poverty, I would get there. I would finally have the chance to dream, to live, to be happy. But perhaps happiness was never meant to stay. It's like the morning sunlight that enters your room. You feel the warmth. You see the light. But you could never truly know what the sunlight feels like without its absence. They simply exist for one another. So perhaps the best thing we can do is enjoy the light and its warmth while it's here. And when it's gone, make peace with the dark, because it carries the quiet assurance that the light will return.